we can hit the ball solid. For example, if I have a golf club like this, we're gonna wanna hit it in the center here of the club face, right? So if you can see where that's at, that's ideally the perfect spot we wanna hit it. And you know, we all understand that, yes, I do wanna hit it in the center here, but we don't always get it to the center, right? And so whenever we're learning a skill like this, and you know, the benefits and the reason why you want to hit in the center is because if we hit in the center, we're doing more things correctly in like the entire motion of our golf swing to get it here consistently. We're also going to hit it further. The ball's also going to go straighter. It doesn't mean it's going to go the furthest. It doesn't mean it's going to go the straightest, but it's going to go further and straighter compared to if I hit it like on the edge or the perimeter of the club or kind of off center, right? So if we hit it anywhere off center here, hitting in the middle will definitely go further and straighter than the alternative on average. So whenever we learn any kind of skill, we always want to learn the purpose first, because if we understand why we're doing what we're doing, then we're able to connect, you know, the specific strategy of like, what's the approach I'm going to take to hit it solid. And then if we know the approach that we're going to take to hit it solid, then the actual drill that we're going to do, whether it's a swing drill, whether it's a little activity, whether it's an environment that we're building, like why you need to hit in the center, and then kind of funnel down into what gets you to do it. So more of the strategy. And then when we learn like a little swing drill at the end of this and how to get it there more often, you'll know why we're doing what we're doing. Because if anytime in the future we're doing like a swing drill or building an environment, and you know, maybe we'll set some stuff on the ground, or if you're doing that in the future and it's not aligned with you actually understanding how this club gets, you know, hits the ball solid, then the time that we spend doing that activity or swing drill is not going to be productive towards you, for example, in this case, hitting the ball solid in the center. So for example, we have different kind of clubs. This is a 7-iron, and when you look at it, the 7-iron has like some angle on the face where this part that hits the ball is facing up or flatter, and depending what you have, whether it's a 7-iron, as you go 8, 9, the bigger the number toward your sandwich and pitching wedge, it gets more angle this way. And so when we look at this, the one thing you have to understand is most of the times when we're hitting it from the ground. So for the ball sitting on the ground like this, we can see that when the club is straight up and down, that ball sits pretty low on the club face, right? And we want to hit it a little higher up here, right? So it's setting us up to hit it on the bottom of the club already. But I'll show you another club as well. I'll have a 9-iron, which has a little bit more angle. And if we see the 9-iron here, what that looks like when it's sitting straight up and down, it even sits lower on the club face. And when I get a sand wedge, it almost, it almost never touches the club face when that thing's sitting straight up and down. So that's sitting like almost on the edge of the club. So we often hear that we want to start, the easier the club to hit would be like a shorter sand wedge or 9-iron, and then it goes to, you know, the harder the lower the club. As you get into 9, 8, 7, 6, 5-irons, they become harder. So they become harder because they are longer, and it's harder to get the ball on the club because it's a longer club. But your ability to hit it solid becomes much more easier with something that's flatter. And when we say solid, that just means hitting in the center of the club face, as opposed to something like a sand wedge. Although we say it's easier to hit, it's the most difficult club to hit solid because the ball never touches the club face at all. So the one thing to understand is we do want to be able to hit it solid, and hitting it solid is getting it deep into the center here. So as I show you as an example with the sand wedge, the way we get that here is that thing's hitting the center. The only way that we get that to the middle of the club face is that face needs to be tilted forward, right? Sand wedge, we can see it it's a drastic motion where this tilts left. So that face needs to be leaning into the ball. So that makes it without even any change of swing. Like we tend to want to swing down more when we don't have to, right? Just the ability to tilt the club this way, now move that ball to the center of the club face, right? So the sand wedges, the more angle you have here where it's facing upwards, the more that club needs to be tilted this way to hit the ball solid in the center. When we look at reason why like 7 irons become easier, even 6 irons becomes easier to hit the center of the face, it might be harder to hit the ball because it's longer. It might be harder to hit in the air because it's flatter, but to get to the center, reason why like a 7 iron would be easier is because the club's almost touching the center, so the amount of shift that you need in the face would only be like this. So it's so much more subtle or less than something like a sandwich. That's the number one reason that when we use clubs like a sandwich, we tend to top the ball more because the club's hitting here and the club tends to come over the ball this way. So what happens is we want to swing down more. So with this pattern here that's going upwards, we swing down and we hit behind the ball. So then with sandwich, when we're chipping, we're pitching, we might be taking full shots. The common miss, if you're not a really good ball striker, is you're gonna top balls or blade them where they go rolling and fast, or you're gonna hit way behind the ball like this. Whereas if you ever notice like something like a 7 iron, if you're a putter, if you had a putter that looked pretty flat like this and you just took like a half swing with a putter, you would almost never top the ball or hit way behind it because of the perceived like angle that you see. It's already flat, so we're not trying to help that thing in the air because it's already pointing to the ball. So understanding that concept, for us to hit it solid, we need the club face to be tilted in front of the ball. So that brings us into how do we do that, right? So as we come up here, I'll show you our first step in hitting this thing solid. And as we go through this, I'm kind of starting high again, and then we're funneling all the way down so you understand how this works. When we start to hold our golf club, the one thing that controls this club face is going to be your hands. So my hands are connected to the club face. So without me even swinging this club, my ability to make the face lean into the ball is not how I swing it, it's how my hands are tilting, right? So if I can tilt my hands, this here is going to be towards my target, so it's like I'm hitting it that way. If my hands are pushing it forward like this, you can see how the face is flatter. What happens for most of us, if we're topping it, is we're hitting it backward where the face, you'll see the face pointing upwards more. So if you're looking this way, the face this way is pointing higher versus we want that face flatter and pointing down. So that's what we're looking at here. It's using our hands to create flatter face this way as opposed to something that looks this way where it's bouncing back. So as we start hitting, our intention to swing is always going to be, can I hit this shot and then keep that face flat so you can see how my hands and this club is almost in a straight line, or it's even forward more on my front or left arm if I'm hitting as a right-handed player. And that's the impact that we're shooting for. The problem is we never think that way because when we set up, everything looks so straight like this, right? Everything's straight. But if we return the ball like this, as we saw in the picture, we turn it straight, we're going to hit it on the bottom. If we return it straight with a sandwich, we're going to hit it on the edge. So just returning it back to normal is going to cause you to still hit club balls that are really low on the bottom of the club face. So as we get here, our number one thing for us to draw more solid contact is going to be when I hit it. Doesn't matter if I'm chipping it, a little chipping shot this way, or a half shot like I'm pitching it, or a full shot, right? My impact is the number one where I want that club to be tilted this way, where this lead arm and this wrist is pushing the face flat and down, as opposed to we're going to oftentimes hit balls this way where our hands and this is back. So this leads us into one of the drills that I want you guys to get is more of an impact drill, and this is something you can do at home. I grabbed a hanger here. So if you guys have just a plastic hanger, the way this works is you can put that hanger on the side of your club like this, where it extends past, and it's like an extension of your club. So as we have this extension, all we're doing is we're holding the hanger where it's sticking beyond the club and it's going between my forearms. This is not made to be comfortable, so when you do this for the first time, it's not going to feel good in your hands, and it's not really designed to feel comfortable because you're putting something between your hands and the golf club. But it is there to give you feedback. So if we're taking swings, we'll get that hanger straight, and the goal is going to be, can you keep this hanger here leaning on your front lead arm? If you're a right-handed player, it's going to be your left arm. So if I swing, I want to be able to hit with this hanger pushing into my left arm. If you tend to top balls, that hanger is going to bounce backwards and hit your trail or right arm if you're a right-handed player. And you can take practice swings at home just to feel this. And when you hit it, little putting shots like this or chipping shots, it'll be easy. The moment we start swinging it faster, we're going to see the club bounce back this way if we don't have that impact set. And it's going to be harder. So the drill that you're trying to get is, can I keep this thing leaning on my lead arm for a lot longer period of time? So you might start just chipping the balls in the house, or even using it with like a putter, right? Just to get the feel of, this is what it feels like to stay on my lead arm. So the hanger drill is something that we can do at home just to swing. And if I can start swinging full shots, right, I'm keeping this on my hanger. And even when I'm doing this, right, where my wrists are bending, right, this hanger is always on my lead arm. It's never off of it like this. So I'm always at 100% of the time keeping that hanger at every one of my swings on this lead arm here. So even if I swing it this way, this is touching my lead arm. Backswing, this is touching my lead arm. On my through swing, it's touching my lead arm. The thing that you might find is sometimes on the way back, it's going to miss. On the way through, it's going to miss like this. And you can see that one is touching more of my trail arm. So the hanger drill just gives you the feedback of, can I keep this club on that lead arm for a longer period of time through this little impact zone where I'm going to be hitting the ball, right? So all the way through and then swinging it up. So doing this hanger drill. So that's a little activity you can do just to get out of the house, do it a couple minutes. Just swinging it, do it in the house for practice swings. But we can also hit golf balls like this as well. So, give me a second here. As we come in here, I'll give you a few different steps. If you do have a yard and you can hit real balls, that would be amazing. But not all of us have a backyard that we can hit into. Not all of us have grass. So I'll give you a couple of different options here. That if I'm hitting a little wedge, we have like concrete here as a slab, so we don't want to bust your club. So I just got a mat, like one of our outdoor rugs, because now I can get myself to hit it and I won't damage my clubs. So we can definitely hit shots like this and keeping that thing on our arm the whole time, and it's giving us feedback. So I have a bucket here of regular balls. If you have regular balls, I even put a target out here on our Facebook page. I'll give you more like ways to like set stuff up to keep the variety. But for now, I just have one simple target. I'm going to try and chip it in that basket. But I want to keep as a goal, my outcome coming in here is, I'm not going to just try and chip it in the basket. I want to see if I can chip it in the basket while keeping this on my arm, right? So when I start posting my practice, I came out to work on my impact. An intention that I might have is going to be, you might not get it at all in the basket, which doesn't mean you fail the activity, but it's going to be, how many shots could I hit and keep this thing touching my arm, right? That would be like the number one intention that I want to do to grow, get my hand strong enough to keep the face forward. So I might come up here for 3 or 5 minutes, like later on today, and if I don't make any, it doesn't mean I failed the activity, because I'm setting in advance, what is my outcome for these 3 or 5 minutes that I come out and hit these 10 balls, right? It's going to be, well, today or this moment here, I want to keep it on my arm here. Maybe the next time I do it, if I do this all the time, like, can I keep it on my arm and get the ball in the air, right, and be able to hit the turf? But I will show you that we can. It feels uncomfortable, but we can hit balls with a hanger. If you have junior clubs, you might need like the smaller kids hangers, but these still work pretty good. But I'm taking a few practice swings where I'm feeling the club engage the turf. If I feel that club engage the turf, right, if my hands aren't strong enough at holding it, when it hits the turf or the mat, it's gonna bounce back. If I just swing it in the air, I'll be able to keep this no problem. The moment I enter and create an impact like this is when it might be back. So one is, easiest way to do it is in the air because there's no pressure. Next would be I have to add some kind of impact because the moment I do this, it might bounce back and I need to keep that feedback. So I'll show you that. You can still hit some balls here. Keeping the hanger, I'll kind of show you what that looks like going in this direction with a hanger. So you guys can see, if you don't have real balls, you don't have the space, like for us, we have our Charlotte here, so we have these fun balls in the house. That ones they can get from the playhouse. So if you have any of these work good. These work really good because we can take bigger swings. So it's still, I'm creating this impact, but I can take a little bigger swing to get a short distance. I can hit across my yard this way, and if I want to practice further ones with this one, where I can take bigger swings and still keep it in my yard over here. And finally, if we don't have either, oh, actually, I like these two. So if you have ping pong balls, I got all this stuff in my house, but I have little ping pong balls. Ping pong balls is the next step down. It doesn't go as far. So I can take these ping pong balls and take bigger swings to hit it. I can take, if you see this, I can take more full swings and it won't go very far. So ping pong balls are really fun too. They're probably out of all of these my favorite because we can start to curve ping pong balls to hit shots. So they show a little bit more true curve. If you have none, I made these balls here in the house. These are just, they're not all foil, but it's like crumpled up. You can either use paper towel or I use like a newspaper magazine kind of thing, and I crumpled it up to the size I want it, and I just wrapped it in tin foil. And we can do that and hit these little balls that we create out there. And so these don't go very far either, and they're light and they're safe. So they're not all foil, so they're super light, and it allows you to take a little bit bigger swings as well. So these are a few ways that you guys can get going. Again, if you guys don't have any, or you can make the foil balls, you can just crumple up. You want to be hitting something, so that's part of it too. We don't want to just be out here swinging at air, because we're going to find it easy to get the motions down, but the part that defines the skill is like whenever we're hitting something and creating some kind of impact. And we do need the feedback of what the ball looks like. Like if I'm swinging here and I'm not able to touch the turf and I'm not able to see the ball fly in the air, then my feedback of solid contact and making sure that face gets on the ball, I'm not tying that into what the total outcome would be, right? It wouldn't be just to keep my hands, the face leaning forward. It's going to be, so I'm doing this with my hands for the only reason to hit the ball up higher in the club face in the center of the club. So do it with a hanger. You can then take the hanger off and then mimic the feel of keeping that with like the hangers leaning on your arm. So it's something that you might not do all of them with the hanger, but you might do, you know, a minute with the hanger, a minute off, minute on, minute off, or go 5 balls with, 5 balls off, just so you want to get used to the training tool there. When you guys go, again, look at the different clubs that you have, whether it's a 7-iron, your pitching wedge, your 9-iron, or your sand wedge here, because I want you guys to also look just to see what the club looks like when it's sitting down, to see how much of the club face points the ball with which club. You'll notice the driver points the flattest, right? But then we also hit the driver on a tee, so it becomes easier to get in the air that way, but when it's so flat. And then the wedges look like this, and you'll see less contact on the face. So even though sometimes we might miss hit drivers, driver is one of the easiest golf clubs to hit the surface of the club face. Doesn't mean it's going to go far, it doesn't mean it's going to go straight, But compared to like sandwich, where we tend to hit the perimeter or the bottom here more often, drivers, we rarely do that because it's already so flat and facing the target like this. So that is our little educational section today. Our skill for the day is solid contact. Hey guys, Aki here, and I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, two little favors. One, share with somebody else, and two, subscribe below so you get notifications on every time we post a new video. You guys all can do this. You guys all can get the mindset, the strategies, and the skills to create the momentum you guys want to achieving your most successful and fulfilling golf of your guys' lives.